everyone. Welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Fontana, and with me, he's Andy Asimakis, the co-founder of this crazy little pod we do. How you doing, Andy?
I had a realization today,
Tell me.
Stephen. You know that feeling you get when you're in an elevator and someone's like approaching to get it and it just shuts and you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That needs to be like a drug or a pill you can take. That is one of life's most amazing sensations.
Oh no, look what happened.
I tried.
Do you do the fake reach for the
Yeah.
button? Yeah.
Well, I get panic from like, what's the elevator open
Where's
and
the
close
button?
button?
Arrows are going this way. Arrows are going this way. Why couldn't it just say open or close? No, I get it.
Yeah, that's got to be a pill or a drug.
Something you
over the counter.
Yeah, I think you're just evil. I think that's.
If you have a 9 to 5, it should be part of your insurance plan.
Sure.
Just part of the package.
Probably. Joining us this week is James Richards, studio head and lead game designer at Squish Studios, developer of Super Dungeon Designer, a game that lets you build, upload, and play your own top-down action-adventure dungeons with others. How are you, James? Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
I'm great, thanks. Excited to be here. Thanks for that wonderful intro.
Yes,
couldn't have said it better myself.
You probably did. You probably wrote that.
You did write those words, I imagine, for the Steam page.
It sounded really familiar. That's why I was like, wow,
it's like these guys are they should do all my press releases.
There it is. There it is. Nailed it. Welcome to the show, James. This has been a few days in the making. We had to do a couple of cancellations, couple of things kind of got in the way over the weekend. But here we are on a beautiful Monday to talk about your beautiful video game.
We feel fresh.
Indeed. I feel fresh. I passed out at like 9:30 until 9:55. And my wife was like, hey, it's 9:55. I was like, oh God, I got a show. So I got some water. But I feel refreshed. I took the little cat nap. I'm feeling good. And just like you listeners, you feel good. You know why you feel good? Because you're listening to the Dual Screens podcast, the internet's #1 indie developer interview podcast that you've never heard of, probably. The show posts each and every week for your listening pleasure on your podcast service of choice, including our home Podbean. And of course, you can watch the video version of it on youtube.com/dualscreens.tv. And we want to thank our Patreon producer, Colton the Apprentice Nestler, for supporting us on Patreon, just like you can by going to patreon.com/dualscreens for as little as $1. You could join our Discord and hang out with us all day, day. You get some bonus content. Sometimes.
That was one of the best of that you've ever done, ever.
Oh, is it?
100%.
Well, I was impressed. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it, James. I appreciate it. You know, we actually did a recent calculation a few episodes ago. I got a new phone. I now have an iPhone. I didn't have an iPhone forever. I was an Android guy. So I got an iPhone. So I was like, all right, I need a podcast app. So I found one that I was all right. I hate the Apple one. So I found one. And so I downloaded our show. I subscribed and I downloaded our show. And I noticed that it said 450 episodes. And that's the first time I've seen it cumulatively in an app like that before. So just a few episodes ago, we would have uploaded 450 episodes of either Nintendo Dual Screens or the Dual Screens podcast, which of course Dual Screens podcast was born from Nintendo Dual Screens. But I think that's pretty cool. And so I'm glad I was able to do it well, the intro, because it's been 452 episodes.
A lot of hours with you.
Yeah.
And it's mostly like drawing a blank. There's a few things I remember.
Oh, it's a blur.
452 hours.
It's a blur. All right, ladies and gentle germs. James, why don't you sort of go over with us, get the ball started here. Now, I gave one of those like little descriptions, the buzzwords. I used all of that stuff, but in your own words, as the lead designer on this game, tell us what is Super Dungeon Designer.
Yeah, so I mean, you really did describe it really well. It's, a game that lets you build your own top-down Zelda-style dungeons and upload them online for other people to download and play. So it's really intuitive. You can build dungeons however you want, can add as many rooms as you want, adjust the size of rooms. You can add all kinds of different enemies, items, objects into those rooms, can change the colors of the rooms, the layouts, add all kinds of decor. You upload it online. Other people can browse and download those dungeons and then play through them. We do up to 4-player local co-op, so you can play together, which is really fun. Um, and the big feature of the game that really stands out to me, we have this really in-depth linking system. It's how you trigger events in the dungeon. So when you link objects together, they become linked and they'll trigger things. So this is how you create puzzles. So like if you link a group of enemies to a closed door, then that door is not going to open until you defeat the enemies. But it gets a lot deeper than that. You can do all kinds of cool interactions and things to just create awesome puzzles however you want.
Can you spread things through different sections of the dungeon? Like, say, you clear the enemies here, it opens a chest. This chest gives you this item, and then in another room, if you put this item in this thing, a room all the way on the other side will open a thing. And like, can you do that, or is it restricted to just the room you're in?
Yeah, it's not restricted. So you can have things trigger outside of the current room you're in.
That's so
and
cool.
affect things like way off on the other side of the dungeon. It's really fun in the co-op too, where
Yeah.
you could have 2 players start on like separate sides of the dungeon and they're solving things and doing things like help each other get through and then meet up in the middle to take on a boss or whatever you want to do. It's been really cool. We've had a bunch of open play tests. So we've already got like this community together that have built these amazing dungeons. You can actually play them right now. We have our live demo up on Steam. There's all these great dungeons you can check out, and that's straight from the community.
I can't think of a more appropriate name for a system for a game that looks and plays like a Zelda than a linking system.
Mm-hmm.
Was it ever not going to be called that?
It wasn't
Could you
intentional.
imagine if some other stupid name came up in the conversation?
We were gonna call it a Midna-ing, but it just didn't quite roll off the tongue.
Yeah,
No.
first it was the Mario system, and then
Right.
we were like, it doesn't really fit. So
Yeah. Majora's Tasks? No, that didn't work. Come on, that was good, Andy.
Ass.
Majora's Tasks? Come on, that was good.
That was, you did it. You did it good.
Don't
You
lie
can
to
leave
me.
now.
Don't lie to me. I could retire. We did it.
Go to the beach.
Obviously, this is like kind of this new budding genre of create your own levels. Mario Maker just kind of exploded this genre into the mainstream. And people have been asking, where's the Zelda Maker? Like, that's like the perfect thing. And then we got that like little tease of it in I think it was the Link's Awakening remake. So we got a little bit of that, but it wasn't quite there. People were kind of hungry for more and everything like that. But this is pretty much as close to as you're gonna get right now. Just looking at aesthetics wise and just the functionality of it all. Why don't you tell us a little bit about? We assume that may have sparked your journey down this road. Why don't you tell everybody where this kind of all came from? What's the genesis of Super Dungeon Designer?
yeah, it kind of dates back. So at the studio, we have 2 games that we already launched. One is called Memory Match and Catch, and it's a memory style game where your matches get added to your collection and you're trying to kind of collect the different characters that you see as you match them and kind of go through different worlds. It's kind of a fun, kid-friendly mobile game that we came out with. And then we had another game called Drag and Drop that came out. It's a puzzle platformer where you drag and drop in different items to help you complete the levels and get through. Yeah. So we came out with that game. And so some of the mechanics there, you can see where our mind was kind of going, where you're kind of dragging objects in to like help your character get through to the end. And after we released Drag and Drop, which we got both of those games actually on restaurant tablets. This is kind of random, but if you go to a Red Lobster or a I think some Applebee's,
I believe it might be in Chili's.
And Chili's,
yes, that's where I played it.
Nice, that's awesome. If you go to those restaurants, you can play those 2 games. So
yep,
go check them out. But yeah, when we finished up development on Drag and Drop, we kind of got together as a team and we discussed where we really wanted to go from there. And one of the ideas we had out there, I was a Mario Maker streamer, love Mario Maker. I had like 300 followers. I wasn't like a big Mario Maker streamer, but I was a Mario Maker streamer. Um, love Mario Maker. I mean, the game is just, it's amazing. Everything you can do in that game is just so inspiring. And playing through that game and just seeing the mechanics and everything, and then coming off of Drag and Drop, where we kind of have this game where you're kind of guiding the player through and sort of building the level as you go, just kind of meshed together. And we decided to go big or go home and kind of work on a much bigger game. So we decided to start work on Super Dungeon Designer. And that was 5 years ago, actually almost 6 years ago now. It's been a long journey.
You say it's drag in drop, right? Not dragon drop, like an actual dragon.
It's an actual dragon, yeah.
Okay.
The last boss of the game is a dragon. His name's Fetch, and it's called Drag and Drop. But the main mechanic of the game is that you drag and drop in
Andy, we
items
spoke
to, like,
about
help
this
you
game
get-
on.
I think we have.
I think.
Oh,
it
really?
might have- yeah, I think
Because
we
I
spoke
was
about it
thinking
on
about
Andy's
like,
Nuts.
is he saying dragon or dragon?
No, it
Because
was
I
Drag and
imagine dragons like you're on the Empire State Building throwing dragons on people to try to land
Oh
on their
man,
head.
we should have done that. We should have done that.
just
Yeah, we
you
did
get a
discuss.
dragon and you get
So-
a dragon.
I'm not sure if I hate games like the one you're making, James, because on the one hand, it kind of tricks my brain. Like I could do games, I could do game design, I could like totally do this. It's how hard could it be? But then the other side of the coin is, oh wow, look how creatively bankrupt I am. Because it would just be like a box, like a square room with like a chest in a corner.
Well, let's be serious.
Maybe some
you
spikies.
would remake levels you loved first. Like
I would.
that's like if you're an amateur at this kind, or
I
like
would.
a novice at this kind of thing, like that's usually what people do. Is like I'm gonna recreate Mario 1-1, and then like they start to understand level design because they're looking at it from a different perspective. And I feel like that's what this game in particular is gonna do, because I'm looking at them like I can never like triggers and linking and this and then like I'm just not creative enough. But the more I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, that's like Castle or Temple 3, and I see what this person was doing. Oh, this is kind of like the Moonlighter, where you're like dodging through the spikes and you're trying to like get somewhere before the time runs out or whatever. Like there's a lot of creativity involved and a lot of things that I don't think you've realized that you're capable of here, Andy. As a player of so many of these games, I think you could come up with some pretty cool stuff.
Give him way too much credit.
I think that's a really good point. One thing that we really focused on when we were making this game is making it as user-friendly as possible, and also having an ear to the player the entire time. So we've had our Discord server, we've had our playtests and streams, like dev streams and things like that, where we've just been listening to player feedback and incorporating that as we go. So it's really, it's a game we've made, but we've really reached out to the community for help and to make sure it's the best game it can be. But a big focus for us was this usability, the ability to let anybody be able to go in and kind of make a dungeon and make it easy. And it's all point and click. So when you're going in, and when I'm talking about linking objects together, you're literally just clicking on the enemy, clicking on the door. Now they're linked together. So it's all just point and click, almost like visual scripting.
What have been some of the more insane dungeons you've seen from playtesters or fans that have gotten their hands on this so far, that you've been like a holy shit moment, like someone did that with our game?
There's been a lot. We had so it's funny because when you make a game like this, there's so much emergent behavior that just comes out of the things you make, because you end up stuffing so much stuff into this game and it all interacts with each other, and then you go, oh cool, that does that, okay, awesome, thanks game. We had one dungeon that somebody made in the playtest where they didn't even give the player a weapon. They gave them the dash boots. And the dash boots are a cool item. It lets you dash over a pit. So if you have a pit in the way, you can dash over it, and it's kind of like kind of like Rock's Feather in Link's
Right.
Awakening, right? Let you jump. This is kind of our solution to that. It's a dash boot. And the dash boot's also nice because you can bump enemies. Like if an enemy's in your way, you can bump them, it'll hit them out of the way. And we have this ghost enemy in the game. And the ghost enemy, when it takes damage, transforms into this devil form. And the devil form of the ghost is invincible. It'll chase you. And then after a few seconds goes back into the normal form, you can damage it, and you're kind of trying to defeat it. But while it's in that devil form, if you have the lantern, you can one-shot kill it. The fire from the lantern will defeat the ghost in its devil form. So this designer in the playtest actually made a dungeon where all you get are the dash boots and the lantern, things that normally can't damage anything. And what we didn't realize is if you dash into the ghost, it doesn't damage it, but it turns it into that devil form. It gets mad that it was dashed into. And then the ghost chases you, and you use the lantern to defeat it. And he made like a Luigi's Mansion themed dungeon where you're just dashing into ghosts and like using the lantern to kill it. And we were like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to keep that with the dash boots. We like that.
See, that would never cross my mind.
Yeah, the creativity that's come out of it has been just insane. There's a dungeon that is, it'll take you like an hour and a half to clear. It's called the Castle of the Chromatic King. It's actually in the demo. It's one of my favorite dungeons. It kind of shows a little bit of everything the game has to offer. But the guy who made it implemented a difficulty selector. And we don't have that in the game. So what he did was basically had 3 warp pads, and they warp you. You start with only 2 hearts. They warp you to a room. If you select easy, you get 2 extra hearts. Then it warps you to the level. You select hard, it doesn't give you any extra, and it warps you to the level. So just cool stuff like that, like just seeing people, create their own difficulty selector or kind of take a take on the game that we never expected has been really awesome.
Have you seen like people making stories out of their dungeons, like linking certain things together where it tells a cohesive narrative throughout?
Yeah, one of my favorite objects that we have these signposts, and when you put a signpost down, you can add text to it. And if you go up and interact with that signpost, it'll pop up the text box. So you can leave the player clues or whatever you want. Our intention was for it to just be, a signpost that leaves clues for the player. So you could read it and, kind of be like, oh, maybe these, you could say like, oh, these blocks are suspicious or something. And then, oh, I got to push these blocks out of the way, whatever the player wants to do. We also made it so that you can link to the signposts, and whatever you trigger from that link will pop up the text box from the signpost. So if you link an enemy to a signpost, defeat the enemy, it's going to pop up that text. Or if you step over a switch and that switch is linked to the signpost, it's going to pop up that text. And in doing that, we did actually end up seeing in our playtests, people were using it as more of a narrative engine than an actual engine just to leave clues. We were seeing people kind of write little stories. I think the one dungeon I actually just talked about at the very beginning, he's got like a little story. He actually names the character, kind of names who your nemesis is going to be, and sets up this whole narrative. It's been really cool to see that kind of creativity spawn from something we didn't even intend to be used that way.
Speaking of nemesis,
Yeah.
let's talk about enemy variety. Because that's a big thing in a Zelda-like game, is seeing what kind of monstrosities you'll be going up against, especially in the bosses and mini bosses, and they usually have fun little mechanics. So does the player have creativity on how enemies are fought, or do you have predetermined bosses with certain mechanics that are able to defeat them? Like, how did you guys tackle that unique aspect?
We had a long discussion for a while over how do we handle enemies and how much creative freedom do you give the player. With enemies, what we ended up deciding, we want there to be some sense of familiarity. So when you load up a dungeon, there should be some expectation the player has about how this dungeon's going to play. It's the same thing with Mario Maker, right? Like a Goomba always takes 1 hit to kill. Koopa, you have this expected behavior of I can jump on a Koopa, I'm going to get the shell, and then I can do stuff with the shell. We wanted to keep kind of that player expectation with our enemies. So for the enemies themselves, we gave them fixed health, and fixed amount of hits they take to be defeated, and fixed behaviors that they have. But where things, and then where your creativity can come in with that is with the linking system. So creating really interesting scenarios around the enemies or even with the enemies, having, multiple enemies spawn in, or when I defeat an enemy, now all these spikes are up and 3 more enemies spawn, and I've got to kind of deal with the enemies that way. So we wanted the creativity more to come from utilizing the linking system around the enemies, but keep that sense of familiarity for the player when it comes to enemy behavior and stats.
Right. So you're not really like coding AI for an enemy or a boss, but you can create these moments to make it more challenging and more puzzle like with environmental objects or things popping in or triggers, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing we do have a unique system for the boss battles in particular. So bosses, you can actually make custom boss fights by using the linking system. So each boss is going to have different phases, and you can link from those phases to make things happen. So you could say, like, when this boss reaches phase 2, spawn in all these enemies, or when this boss reaches phase 3, turn off all the lights and spawn in another boss and make a bunch of gold appear. Whatever you want to have happen, you can have happen. And so with the boss fights, actually have a lot of freedom to kind of create your own designs. And you can link from boss phases, but you can also link from when the boss attacks and when the boss is hit. So you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
What sort of fun scenarios crop up when you introduce 4 players to this beast? Because typically, I look at a game like this, I think single player, old school Zelda. But then we had our 4 swords once upon a time with 4 players in this kind of world. So what does that bring to the table in regards to how the game plays out and the mechanics and the amount of fun you can have with the overall mechanics of the game?
Yeah, from the game dev side, to start off, it was something that we wanted from the beginning, and we had it in the game fairly early on, and we quickly learned how difficult it is because every single thing you put in the game, you've got to think about what effect that's going to have on multiplayer. Any element that we add to the UI, we have to think, okay, what happens when you go into split screen now? So everything that we've kind of designed in the game, we made it 4 times harder for ourselves starting off. But it's been so worth it. Literally. Because multiplayer is such a unique aspect of the game, and it's so fun. We've gone to these conferences like PAX West and a couple other conferences, and we set up a big TV and we set up 4 controllers, and we get people over to the booth, and they're just laughing the whole time and having so much fun because they're accidentally pushing each other into pits or blowing each other up with bombs and stuff, but it's still co-op. They're still working together to kind of get through the dungeon. But it's been cool because with the linking system, you can create multiplayer unique puzzles. So you can have 4 pressure plates on the ground that all 4 players need to stand on before something can appear or happen, or have scenarios where you need one player to go off to one other aspect of the dungeon and go do something else while the other players are fighting off enemies. It's really cool. We implemented a system too where you can actually specify if your inventory is shared with your other party members or if they're separate. Cool. Yeah. So you could have a player that gets the bow and only that player has the bow, and someone else has the sword, and now you've got your player that's doing the ranged attacks for you and taking care of switches and whatever. So kind of give the players roles if you really want to.
Could you potentially craft, because you mentioned you're bombing each other, pushing into pits, and I'm thinking, could you potentially craft a player versus player scenario, or a King of the Hill, or something where it's you're versing each other in a sense, if you're designing it to be that way?
You can. One of my favorite
so rad.
one of my favorite dungeons I've created is a game called Warthog Sweeper. So we have this warthog enemy in the game that will charge at you whenever you're in line with it, and it breaks any cracked blocks that it runs into. The same thing that bombs can blow up. We have these cracked blocks in the game. And I created this dungeon where you have rooms with a bunch of cracked blocks set up, and then player two has the exact same setup on their end. And you're racing to see who can make the warthog break all the blocks before it'll open up the door so you can get out of the room. And when you get out of the room, it makes the other player's side of the dungeon spawn with a bunch of enemies and pits and stuff so that they die, and you get to go win the dungeon or whatever. So you can kind of make your own way to create like a competitive dungeon if you really want to. One of our stretch goals actually for the Kickstarter is a full-on PvP mode. So we're hoping to, at some point, get that into the game. It's not looking like we're going to hit that stretch goal. We got 5 days left here, but we do want to, someday work on like an actual full-on PvP mode for the game.
We should actually talk about the Kickstarter, because that's why we're doing this, because
it's happening now.
Yes, it's happening right now. We're almost at our goal here, but I do have to say, how dare you put cats behind a stretch goal? How dare you?
I was thinking the same thing, dude.
No, you weren't.
No, I legit was. It's like, I'm like, come on, that doesn't seem fair.
Cats. Place and rescue cats in your dungeon. Cats will follow you when you rescue them, and the end level tile won't activate until all cats have been found. This introduces a fun new clear condition, sorry, there's a glare on my screen, that will make for some interesting puzzle designs, plus it's adorable, of course. Don't worry, cats are immune to attacks. Oh, good, you can't kill the cat. That's good.
Yes, you cannot harm the cats.
That is smart.
You lost me.
That is smart. What if you, like, hit the cat, like, 3 times, and then the cat, like, just claws you to death? And then it becomes cute again.
That's an option. I don't want the cats to be hit at all.
Like, if you walk too close to the cat, and the cat's not ready for you to walk
so
close.
Yeah, we could do that, or just not do that.
And the cat just, like, hits you in the head, like, hey, thank you for rescuing me, but, like, I'm not ready.
I'm just thinking of, what was that? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's like, let's chop cats. Let's chop cats.
How dare you? That's all I'm saying.
Yes, if you feel passionately about it, you could donate $9,000 right now. We would hit that stretch goal. Cats are in the game.
This is true.
If Steve's giving you 9K, you're calling it Steve's mode. There's no like other way around it.
Yes, if you have a cat, we will put the likeness of your cat in the game.
Will this be the first dual screens produced game? And I don't know.
I was gonna say, if you get within like $1,000 of your goal, I'll give you the last $1,000, James.
Nice.
There you go. So yeah, folks, we just got about 5 days left. By the time you're listening to this, it's probably about 4 days. I'm gonna hope to get this episode out right after we record it. But I do have like a million other things actually currently rendering, so I hope to get to it. But either way, you have a few days to get on there. It's Kickstarter. You're going to look, you could either search Squish Studios or just search Super Dungeon Designer. It is a project we love from Kickstarter. So you got that seal of approval, which is awesome. One thing that we never really ask our Kickstarter guests is what it's like from like the Kickstarter perspective, like the people who run Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And now that you have this stamp on here, I'd love to know, like, what is that like? Are they just an anonymous ghost in the corner, or do they actually like contact you? Like, how's that work?
They're very much an anonymous ghost in the corner for the most part. It's kind of on you to kind of reach out to them for help and support, but when you do, they are really receptive and great at offering support. We actually realized a little ways into the Kickstarter that if you don't create a tier for a physical reward, you can't offer a physical add-on. We had this idea for like pins and stickers that we were going to include, and that ended up kind of falling through. We ended up creating a specific reward tier for those stickers and pins. It's the $50 tier. But originally we were hoping to, offer those for every tier. we reached out to support, and um, they were just really nice about it. Like they understood the frustration with it and were like open to, trying to help us however they could. And we're just, you could tell there's really genuine how kind of they were talking with us. So it seems like there's some good people over there at Kickstarter, but it's very much just kind of on you. Like they're very hands off until you need something, and then they're there to help you. So
And how did it come out? Like how did they tell you that, oh, we're gonna make you a project we love? Like how does that work? It just happened one day. You're like, oh, hey, we're on the front page.
we
Like,
I actually reached out and just said, hey, what does it take to become a project we love? And they just kind of said, we are constantly evaluating it. We'll check in with the department that handles that and let you know. And they got back to us and said, yeah, we love this. So
oh, that's
we got
awesome.
approved for it. Yeah.
I wonder
They
if
should-
if they would have done that had you not brought it up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder how that works for them. Is it like, I don't know. It's a weird system.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't
I
say
wonder.
because this is kind of the
We should get
first time we've
Kickstarter
done
on the show.
They should do projects we hate.
Yeah,
it. Checks we
like that cat Santa game. Good lord, what was that thing? Oh my god.
Can we like almost give them $1,000
We
or some
almost
shit
they
like that?
wanted $1,000 to make that game, and I think it raised like 29.
Cents or something
But
to that
yes,
effect.
yeah. I wonder. Yeah, we should reach out to Kickstarter. Kickstarter, if you're listening to this,
Come on the show.
why don't you come on the show? Talk about how it works. I mean,
Sure.
you guys have been funding indie games for years at this. Well, not you specifically been funding, but you've been a platform to raise funding to help make indie game developers' dreams come true and also crush them. And we would love to have you on the show to talk about it. Indeed.
They've helped separate me from so much money throughout the years.
Same.
Oh, mighty number 9.
So what happens after the campaign comes to a close? Say you don't hit this initial goal of yours. Is it more of, does it delay the plans? Does the game still move forward? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's likely going to, if we don't hit the goal, it's likely going to delay things. And the main reason, we really do need the money from this Kickstarter for the game to be successful. Because we're self-publishing, we really need that money to run a marketing campaign before we launch the game into early access. This game's really interesting because it's in that position where it needs a strong community to succeed. If people don't go on there and don't see dungeons constantly being uploaded and new stuff going on, it's going to get stale quick and people are going to fall off and drop off of the game.
Right.
So that marketing push is essential for the launch of the game to go well. So really, we can't launch without that money from the Kickstarter for the game. So likely, what we would be looking at is we were going to hit early access in October. We'd likely push that back to closer to the end of the year, or relaunch the Kickstarter maybe in like November if we can. So, but we're still kind of discussing, what that would look like. We're optimistic because, we really, we're only about 5,600 away from hitting the goal. There's 5 days left. And a lot of times at the end of a Kickstarter is when things really get that sharp spike. So
Right.
we're hoping, we'll get enough word out there. And I'm sure this podcast will help also get some word out there
Absolutely.
for people watching. So
Go to
Seriously,
Kickstarter and do it.
James. If it's
Do it now.
like 14K on the last day, just shoot me an email.
all right, I will do that. I appreciate that.
No, it's a really cool. Not only is it a really cool idea because we've seen there are other games that try to do this, but it seems like you have a really simple formula here for a lot of fun. And that's very exciting. For
Yeah,
us.
definitely. I think one thing that's been really awesome about this is it's great for nerds like me who grew up playing Zelda and just love those kind of games, and who love Mario Maker and other adults that are kind of in that same area. But at our booth at these conventions, we'll get kids that come and they just pick it up right away and they'll run away with it and start linking stuff together and creating all these crazy cool dungeons. And that to me is super rewarding because it's like we clearly created a system that's user friendly enough that a kid can come over, figure it out, and build this awesome dungeon. So yeah, it's been really cool to see.
And you could build on this idea for forever, I feel, because there's so much in Zelda to take from to throw into a game like this. You mentioned like the rocks feather with the dash ability. How much of Zelda is in here, either inspire or just this flat out like, hey, this is Zelda that you're looking at right now, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest design philosophy behind the game was, you know, it's inspired by Zelda, and we want it to be inspired and not ripped off from because we're all huge Zelda fans. It's near and dear to our heart, but we're not trying to steal anything from
Mm.
there. There's things like the sword and bombs and a bow and arrow that are just staples for any game, right? So it's not really like taking from Zelda for that. But when it comes to implementing certain items, we tried to keep them unique, but still functionally doing things that are interesting. So like the dash boots, like I said, you know, it's not letting you jump, it's not doing that kind of thing, but it's letting you dash, and it has some unique aspects where like you're hitting enemies out of the way and doing that kind of thing. And then we have our solution to the hook shot is called the frog glove. And it's this frog that goes on your hand and it shoots a tongue out. And the tongue can latch onto like treasure chests or targets and kind of help you fly across. But it can also stun enemies and it can also eat the smaller enemies. So you can eat the bats and like get whatever item they're holding by eating them. So there's a lot of cool little like unique items that way. So we're trying to put, you know, our own spin on it and make it, you know, our own thing, but still stay true to what, you know, makes this kind of game good. So
That sounds more Zelda than a grappling hook or a hook shot will ever be. So it's got a tongue and it's like a hook, but can eat enemies.
But don't eat three bats because on the third bat he gets too fat and he pukes everywhere, and then you have to walk through the pukes.
I'm taking notes right now. I like this.
I could see this like evolving into like having a like a DLC add-on Super Dungeon Designer Overworld where you get to build little towns that have like a little dungeon attached to them, and you can meet like townspeople and maybe solve puzzles in a town that lead you to a dungeon kind of thing. Like I could totally see
like
this
a
thing.
Quest or two.
Yeah, like I could make a D&D campaign in this easily. With the signposts and everything, just have 4 adventurers go into a dungeon, and like I can have a narrator come in. The adventurers come to a dark corridor. Like I could totally do something like that. That'd be dope. The possibilities are endless.
You mentioned earlier about how like you know you could take this so far because there's so much stuff that you could add to this game, right? So our plan is to just support this game at this point forever. Like we want to just keep adding more and more stuff until it's just super, super feature rich. So, you know, for years to come, our plan is to just keep supporting this game, keep releasing more stuff. We have more themes that are going to be coming. Like right now we have this castle theme, and you could kind of change the color of the walls, change the color of the tiles, that kind of thing in the castle theme. And it's cool, but we're going to have other themes too. Like the next one that's almost done is the forest theme. So you're going to have like forest walls and vines and trees and bushes and ground tiles and all that. And then we're going to be working later, probably closer to full launch next year, on an actual like overworld creator where you can create this big overworld and specify where your dungeon entrances are and create your own like almost full game of your own.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. There's so many different places you can take it to, right? Because like there's so many different game modes that we want to add into the game too. If you're familiar with Mario Maker, they have like that endless challenge mode. We want to do something like that where you're just playing dungeons over and over again with a limited amount of lives, and it kind of keeps track of your high score, how many dungeons you've been through, and that kind of thing. So there's so many things we want to do. It's just a matter of when we get to what, because we want to just keep supporting the game and throwing more stuff in there. So.
And this is like very streamer friendly too, which I like because again, everything is a surprise, and there's an endless supply of levels you can just dive into and experience for the first time, and you're playing it with your audience and enjoying it. It's so good.
Are you gonna have like a rating system where you rate a dungeon?
So yeah, we have it in the game right now. You can leave a like on a dungeon, that you like. And when you're looking for dungeons to play, you can filter by most liked dungeons, most played dungeons, and you can even, in a couple of those filters, you can filter by like all time or this month or this week, so that you're not just always seeing the same, this is the best dungeon. It's been in the most liked forever. It's not going anywhere. That's probably going to be there, forever. So you can
Show me
filter by like
something
this
brand
week
new
this
or
month.
something that nobody's playing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a filter. It's actually the one that you land on is new dungeons. So, that way it's in people's faces to play new ones that haven't gotten any attention. So
Can you search for creator?
you can. Yep.
Yeah, you damn
Search
right
for
you
creator, and you can search by level ID too.
See, look at that. You're thinking of all the things.
Can we just mention how adorable the art style is
Yeah,
for this
it's
game
cute.
for a second? It is so cute.
Yeah,
It is so damn cute.
our guy Matt, he did pretty much all of the art in the game, and yeah, he's super talented. We love kind of where the art style has gone and everything he's done for it. Yeah.
Awesome.
See, a fun stretch goal would have been a pixel art mode. Just saying.
We were joking about that, having like because if you zoom out really far, it looks like all pixely, and we're like, oh, maybe we could add like a filter, like a pixel filter or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Be fun. We were talking about actually like a cheat menu. You could like put in, like remember in
that's
GoldenEye, like
fun.
you would have like big head mode or whatever. Maybe something like that down the road would be fun.
Do people still understand that reference, big head mode? I wonder.
We do. Our generation.
We old,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
I think it was DK mode. in
Although I
GoldenEye,
believe, didn't Halo Infinite bring that back?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Didn't they bring like some weird? I don't know. Whatever. All right. Now it's time to get into the nitty gritty of the show. This is the most important part of the
This
show.
is the nitty gritty
Your
of the
game,
show.
secondary. Number one is rapid fire. This is where we get to
It's
know
all about this, James. Nothing
Wow,
else matters
okay.
anymore.
We get to know you. Okay? So
Cool.
we're going to ask you questions, and you're just going to answer them as honestly as you can or as you want to, and as quickly as you want to.
That's good. I was lying up until now, so
Thank goodness. I'm moving
excited to be
a little
honest.
bit. Okay.
He's just some random guy I found on Twitter, Steve.
Just-
He
just
doesn't
some
even play the
dude.
game at all.
Just some dude. All right. I think I'm going to start us off. Okay.
Don't you usually start us off?
No, not all the time. Not all the time.
You can at least be ready if you're going to start us off.
Do you know, or no, explain to our listeners and viewers, what is the good ice?
The good ice. The
Mhm.
good ice is if you've ever been to Seattle, Washington, if you've ever gone to Taco Time,
Okay.
they've got the good ice. It's that crunchy ice.
The
Mm.
You know
soft
what I mean?
ice.
It's like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
soft. It's got like some texture to it.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That is the
That's
good
the
ice.
good ice. Like you pour the drink in and like nothing happens to the ice. It just
Mm-hmm.
goes straight down. That's the good ice.
We call that sexy ice at work.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
I can
that.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in one pantry on the 7th floor. It's like, we're going to go get the sexy ice right now. We'll be right back.
Heard that. Listen, if you want to
Um,
bag that up for me, I'll pay good
Yeah.
top dollar for that.
Now, this may require some thought, James, so we can circle back if we need to, unless something pops to your brain immediately.
Okay.
What is your Zelda hot take?
Zelda hot take. So like an opinion I have that most people don't. Is that?
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm, mhm.
something
Okay.
that's a little fiery, a little feisty,
A
Ooh.
little spicy.
something that will make me go,
A spicy take about
get,
Zelda.
get him out of here, get him off the show.
Everybody knows mine.
I think Triforce Heroes is underrated.
Okay.
I actually really like
Wow.
Triforce Heroes. I think it's a great game.
I don't think
it's
I've
super
ever
fun.
heard somebody say that. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's my hot take.
That
I think
is, in fact, the hot take.
the dresses and things were silly, and it wasn't a mature Zelda, but the gameplay when you actually got three people together to play the game was super fun.
that is
Love
that
the
is a mighty hot
multiplayer.
take.
Yeah.
That's like saying like your favorite Metroid game is like, what was it called again? Federation Force? some
Oh,
crap
yeah.
like that.
No, that's unacceptable.
Like no, that's garbage. But Triforce Heroes,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
Now, Triforce Heroes isn't my favorite Zelda, but it is. I think it's a very good game,
See, that
underrated game.
is, see, that was a good answer. That was a
Yeah.
great answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's Stevie.
Chicken wings, drums or flats?
I like flats.
Okay.
I don't have a reason why. I just like them more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's because you like to push your tongue through the bone, right? Like the two
Yeah,
little bones.
yeah.
You just go, "Mwah,"
I
get
like
in
to
there.
play with my food. Yeah.
Delicious. I like to do that rather than do like pull, yank it. I don't know how people
So,
do that.
You know, this is more of an aside for me, but
Oh,
like,
here we go.
I have to I wonder sometimes why I've spent over close to 500 hours with Steve doing
Oh,
this
it's
show.
way more. Well,
But
okay,
to
I
see
was
him
gonna
be
say.
like, he's like,
No,
it's
no,
like
no.
that just like, oh, that's why. It's for,
You know
for shit
exactly
like
what
that.
I'm talking about.
Follow up. How do you eat your flats, James?
I would probably get judged because I end up leaving quite a bit of chicken on the flat.
Oh,
I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm not.
No,
I'm
I
not
get
the
it.
person that cleans
Yeah.
the chicken. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just kind of nibble at it and
Yeah.
get both sides and
Sure.
I was a habitual chicken cleaner. Everyone thought I was homeless when I was in grade school. Or poor. Because I was like, why is he sucking he's down to the marrow right now? What is wrong with him? Did he not get fed at home?
Gotta savor it.
it's a skill.
Do you want to go, Steve?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Okay. Rocket boots. Okay. Or
Rocket boots.
okay.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was gonna say rocket boots or propeller hat. Like-
Like actual
Not like
new
the
Super
little
Mario
hat
Brothers
with the
propeller
thing.
hat.
Yeah, like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
I'm gonna say propeller hat because I feel like it would last longer. Like if you're going for a long journey,
Mm.
that's probably comfier than rocket boots. You gotta keep your balance the whole time.
Right.
It's,
Right.
yeah.
You'll just end up on your ass on with rocket boots.
Right.
I'll end up in some phone lines with that hat though. I'll just be hung up in a tree or something.
James, what is a childish thing that you still enjoy doing as a grown-ass man? Besides maybe games, but that don't count.
Dang. I still buy Legos, but it's like that. I don't know. Like that's
Oh
not
God, you
that
gotta come over, dude. It's a fucking Lego store at my house.
right. Like that's not that abnormal, Um, I'm like turning around looking at all my expensive hobbies.
I have a small fortune in Legos in my basement. The rest is on display.
Nice. I'm big into Pokemon cards too. Collect a lot of those.
Yeah, I got a bunch of those, but I had to slow down because it was killing me. It was taking too much of my money. They come out every 3 months with a new set. I'm like, come on, I can't do this.
We could have funded his game, you and I, if we didn't spend as much money on Legos and Pokemon cards.
That's
dude.
true. That's true. Could have done it. We could have done it. Here's a rapid fire question. Will split screen for your game, your co-op split screen, will it stop it from coming out on the Xbox Series S?
I am screaming.
I don't know. That's a cross that bridge when we come to it kind of question, I think.
Mm-hmm. Larian also crossed that bridge when they came to it.
Yeah.
Well,
Little
bastards.
tears.
That one was for you, Buzz.
Oh my God. James, what is your favorite smell?
Ooh, that's a
Ooh,
good
favorite
question.
Smell.
Mhm,
Can I answer that?
A fresh.
You
a
can.
fresh,
You can totally answer, Steve.
If you've ever smelled like a fresh booster pack of cards.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Get your nose in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going Disney VHS cases.
Oh man.
Do you remember that smell? Just
Very
opening it and
good.
peeling, like popping the spine a little bit backwards so you could get behind the label. Is give me that sweet, sweet Aladdin cover.
Did the different movies smell different, or did they all?
They were consistent, baby, consistent. The Black Diamond collection.
Get the same high every single time.
So one time, you want to hear something funny? Okay, so when I was a kid, I was a habitual Disney VHS sniffer, like habitual. I was like, if I'm watching a VHS of a Disney movie, I'm sniffing the cover. Okay, it's what I do. It's part of the ritual. Anyway, my cousins had a massive collection of Disney VHS, a lot of movies I've never seen, whatever. And I think it was the Aristocats was the movie. And I went to smell it, and it was awful because I realized my step uncle and my aunt were chain smokers, and they ruined the Disney VHS tape covers with the cigarette smell. And I remember avoiding the covers for so long, and then I got home and I was like, I'm gonna do it. All right, I'll do it. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. There's that sweet, sweet Lion King 1.5. Love it.
I'm gonna say loose change.
Okay.
Like the smell of like coins.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was a kid, I was always with this big giant bowl of loose change in the kitchen.
That
my mama used for laundry.
Yeah.
And we were always like fishing for quarters for the arcade when we were kids.
Oh, of course.
And our hand just reeked of like that metallic. Like,
it
just sends me back.
Yeah, that's a sense memory.
Have you guys ever licked a Switch cartridge?
Yes.
Okay. I figured
it was a Wheel of Doom thing for my stream.
He's like, I figured these two jackasses
one of you idiots would do that.
To be licking Switch cartridges.
No, it's good content for the show.
Yeah, it's good content for the stream.
Content.
Yeah,
it's about the content.
That was I used to do a Wheel of Doom. Every sub I would get, it would spin the wheel, and it would do something either to me or either bad to me or good to the chat. And one of them was lick a Switch cartridge.
What was the ratio on that? Was it split on the middle, or was it leaning more towards...
like I would get free Steam games, like I would, because I'd be in like a million of those like things where you get like
those key
games.
Giveaway stuff. Yeah.
So I'd have those. I would give those. I would do like a dance party, which would be kind of both, because it would be me being ridiculous and also nearly dying, stuff like that. There was the hot potato, the shock potato. Do you remember that one, Andy?
Armor shock potato.
It was a potato with a bunch of little sensors on it that would electrocute you, and you play hot potato. But my whole thing was I wouldn't play hot potato. I just hold it.
It's so stupid.
And then I said I had one goal. I think it was like, if I could get 50 subs tonight, I'll do a pants potato, where I'll just put it down my pants. and I got it, and I put it, and that video lives on the internet.
Oh my god!
Somewhere.
Ask your question, Steve.
I electrocuted my newt satch. Would you rather have the power of invisibility or flight?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Those are both really good. I think flight. I think being able to fly would just be super fun. And I don't know, being invisible just it feels kind of sneaky, like you're invading people's privacy. If I can fly, I can at least have fun and go wherever I need to go as quickly as I can go. Especially I'm out here in Seattle, so getting to avoid all that traffic and just fly wherever I want.
And you can fly above the rain.
That too. Yeah.
I mean, smart. Let's get a couple more questions here, Andy, and then we'll wrap up.
I feel like this could be a fun answer from you, James. You give me a certain vibe, energy. What is the dumbest way you've ever injured yourself?
Oh man, dumbest way I've ever injured myself. I keep it pretty safe. I don't know. I haven't had a lot of hospital visits. I remember once when I was probably in high school, I had the task of mowing the yard at my parents' house. And I remember picking up the lawnmower to like lift it over a fence for some reason. I couldn't just open the gate. I was like, I'm gonna lift this lawnmower over the fence, and picked it up by the exhaust pipe, and it had been running and like burnt the hell out of my hand.
Oh yeah, that's a dumb way to hurt.
So that was pretty dumb.
Ways. I thought this was going somewhere else.
Yeah, and that time I lost my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I could think of though. I don't know. I played it pretty safe.
What is the worst crime you have witnessed?
Ooh. Oh man, I was a GameStop store manager for 5 years. So I've witnessed a lot of
So
crime.
sorry.
The biggest crime was the company. But anyway,
Nailed
I
them. Suck it, GameStop. You
Oh my
losers.
God.
Fucking sell
Um,
video games. Stop with the pops. Get the Funko Pops off the shelf. Sell video games.
Don't you want to get a bunch of Star Wars memorabilia while you're at GameStop, Steve? Or plushies, or backpacks, or patches?
I love stickers and lanyards. Who doesn't love a good lanyard? Anyway, go ahead, James.
yeah, there was one time though. So we had to do inventories, and when you had to do an inventory, you would get there at like 4 or 5 a.m. because you had to get there before the store opened and kind of set things up and scan literally everything in the store. And they're a big pain in the butt. But I worked at the store, and I got there at like 5 a.m. and we were right next to a T-Mobile. And I noticed the T-Mobile's window was just completely broken, just completely smashed to pieces. And it's like 5 a.m. There's no one else around. And I see someone walking inside like the broken glass. And I called the police, like 911. And I was like, yeah, I think someone broke into this T-Mobile. Like the glass is broken. And they were just like, yeah, we know someone's been down there already. I'm like, no, like there's someone walking into the store like right now. They're like, yeah, we know, we checked it out already. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I just went into my store and like locked the door right away.
To Seattle.
Yeah. This was not in Seattle, by the way.
Okay.
Okay.
This was back in Ohio. So.
All right, I will wrap us up here with the most important question of the evening.
Oh boy, oh boy.
The most important question, and really the only question you'll ever have to answer for the rest of your life. That matters. So, here you go.
No pressure at all.
Zero pressure.
Jesus.
For you on this. It's a simple question. A baby can answer it. A baby has answered it. Every guest before you has answered it. So don't disappoint us. The answer is the question is
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The answer is yes. No. The question is Andy or Steve?
For what?
That's the beauty of the question.
James. That just is the general. Beauty. It can be interpreted how you like.
I mean, both. You're both amazing.
Huh.
Super fun to talk to.
So good.
Yeah. Both is an acceptable answer, right?
It has been an answer.
Mm-hmm.
It has been an answer. It counts as a point for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Let me update the spreadsheet.
I'm saying both. Now, if there was more to the question, if it was like, who would you take with you during a zombie apocalypse, or who would you?
There are caveats. You know what we should do, Andy? We should
modifiers.
We should send out a list of Andy or Steve questions and scenarios to all of our former guests and tabulate all the answers.
Don't. You know what's going to happen now.
Yeah, I think we should do it. I think we should do it.
This is a fun project. God damn it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to the end of the program. Thank you so much for sticking with us for this long. If you want to follow us on social media, we're at dual_screens. I'm at Batchild27. Andy is at PantsGuy. James, where could everybody find you? Where could everybody find Super Dungeon Designer? And, of course, Squish Studios and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, all over the place. So if you go to Kickstarter, just type in Super Dungeon Designer, you'll find us. There's a link to all of our socials there too, but it's generally Squish Studios. I think our Twitter is Squish Studio LLC. And yeah, we're all over. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. So
on the TikTokers.
Nice.
Love to see that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you, Andy, for co-hosting with me as always.
Oh yes, and
James,
listeners, go give James some money.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. It was an absolute pleasure hanging out with you and doing the show with you. And again, thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. And as always, please be excellent to each other.